Okay, welcome everybody. I see people just coming in now. Welcome to the Friday webinar. I'm Derek Auger, the Executive Director with Conservatory Canada. Thanks for joining me today here. I've got an announcement to make. First of all, we were due to have Eleanor and Cecile present to us today in the latest installment, the fourth installment really of their Women in BIPOC Composers Exploration. They were going to look at French Connection composers here as they did last time for more advanced grades, but they've had to cancel today. There's been an unfortunate incident there. Cecile is just dealing with something and wasn't able to attend today. So they've asked if we could reschedule. And I sent out a little message on Conservatory Canada Facebook page last night just for everyone so they could have a heads up. So we're not going to have them today. And so instead today you have me, and I'm just going to go freeform here and talk about a few things that I've been waiting to kind of insert into webinars at some point regarding a few of our projects here. And I'm going to talk about those. People can view this on the YouTube channel later. And then, of course, I realize those of you watching on YouTube now can ask questions on the chat there, or any of you watching live on Zoom with me now can ask questions, and I'm here to answer anything and everything today. So in lieu of Cecile and Eleanor, which will hopefully maybe join us in 2 weeks' time, next week we're going to have Deborah Wanless here, who's going to talk about one-handed repertoire, which is really great. And she's got a series for this. The title is Rainbow or something or other. I can't remember the title of it, but anyway, she'll let us know all about that next Friday. It should be a really engaging session. We may have Eleanor and Cecile join us on the week after, on Friday the 16th. I was going to take that week off for the Friday webinar, but if they want, we're going to have them on the 16th. And if not, we might have them later in January after restart. I'm hoping to restart the webinars after Christmas on the 13th of January, Friday the 13th, I guess that it would be. And probably do something on digital badges that day. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm going to plan that out over time here. So I'm going to share my screen and just go through a few things here. And I think the number one thing I want to talk about today, just to fill some of the time for those of you that like to join and ask questions and hear from us every week, is the YouTube channel. And I'm sure most of you have found it by now, but this is where all of the webinars now live. And you can see here just on the homepage of Conservatory Canada TV, you can search Conservatory Canada TV in the YouTube search or in a Google search, whatever search engine you're using. It should bring you to this page fairly easily. And so you can see here, this is the homepage, and the homepage for most YouTube channels is a little bit hit and miss. You can see just more current videos here at the top where YouTube just decides what to throw there for you that's more recent. Past the live streams goes next in the second line, and that one's a little more chronological. You can see Christopher Norton joined us last week. You can see Dr. Gilles Como the week before here, Dr. Elaine Keeler with her 2 sessions in there. Sometimes this will be slightly out of order because we did have one in between there still. And then the musicology app came before that. There's also new teacher webinars here, which feature underneath. That's for new teachers that want some of the older information that we've posted. But I think the best place to look, you can either look at videos here under the videos tab, and you can see all of our videos that have been uploaded. These are not going to be necessarily in order, because in order to fill out a new playlist for Christopher Norton, I uploaded 3 of his older ones the other day. And so these are a little bit out of order compared to what we have. Or we've got live. These are the live shows we've done, and most of these will also appear in order, but not quite. Some of them, once in a while, a live recording or a live stream doesn't work out the way I want, and I've had to do some editing. And so that's why these are slightly out of order from time to time. But the playlist is the best place to go. And if you want everything in chronological order, I go to webinar replays over here at the top right within playlists. And those webinar replays, no diploma syllabus, we start right away. But down the right-hand side, you can see all the replays in order. It's just that they're sorted from oldest to newest. And by oldest, I'm talking the middle of September when we started the webinars, working our way through. And here you can see them in order. Christopher Norton, advanced repertoire from last week. Gilles Como before that, Elaine Keeler. We had Eleanor and Cecile the week before that, Elaine Keeler giving us that amazing performance on the forte piano, the Clemente forte piano, and backwards like that. So you can find everything in order there under webinar replays playlist. And then other playlists, Christopher Norton, I started a playlist for him the other day, and most of these are from last year. Micro musicals, his wife's music, Wendy Norton, the essential guides that he did with George Lythurst through the SuperScore app, and then the advanced repertoire that he shared with us last week. And that I'll populate with a few more. There are others there. Music and pedagogy research. Right now, we just have Dr. Gilles Como there, but in the new year, I promise you, I'm going to have a lot of different researchers coming in to talk to us about different things, and that's where their webinars are going to end up. The SuperScore webinars, because George of Time Warp Technologies has been with us a lot, I'm going to put more of his webinars here. In fact, there are some already here that I just simply have to push to that playlist. Mock exam webinar replays. These are the webinar sessions that go with the mock exams. There's 4 of them here that you can view anytime. 2 from grade 3 classical piano, 1 from level 5 contemporary idioms piano, and a grade 4 classical piano. These are really great looks into, behind the scenes kind of what an examiner goes through, how an examiner thinks and listens. And then to work with those webinars, which are looking through the rationale of the whole exam, you have to work with the mock exam playlist. So mock exam webinars have 2 playlists, one for the mock exam itself, and one that gives you the whole rationale called the mock exam webinar replay. So what I do is I start watching the webinar replay. After a certain point, you'll hear me in the webinar replay say, okay, now go watch the mock exam, go over to the other place, watch the mock exam that goes with that. The titles are similar, so you can tell which one is which. And then when you're finished watching the mock exam, you go back to the webinar replay and watch me go through for about a half hour, 40 minutes, the rationale behind all of the marks and how examiners think their way through that. In the mock exam webinar replay, there should also be in the description, let's see, it tells you where to go, but I thought I had left somewhere where you can get a marking grid and a marking form for these. And you can see there are key moments set up here. I didn't even do that. That just happened, which is great. But there's a place where you can download, I thought. Yeah, I'll have to work on that. If anyone wants the marking grid marking form and they can't find it, just email me and I can get that to you so that you can view that whole thing. Let's see if it's in this description. No, I didn't put it here either. Okay, so at some point I'm going to upload the marking grid and marking form for those so you can mark along and you understand. It'll just be more, more interesting experience for those that still want to see those and haven't. CC recitals and performances. There's only one thing here right now, and as we did a little online recital for our convocation last year, we're not doing that this year. There just isn't enough time, it seems, to organize it. We just hope to get everyone in person next year, a year from now. But that's that recital there. You'll see some of the best and brightest award winners from last year's convocation, each performing a little piece that's pre-recorded. Here's a big playlist now growing. Of course, we were supposed to have Eleanor and Cecile here today. And again, if you join late, they're unable to join us. And so I'm just filling in some time with some extra information here for you, maybe to prompt some questions, those of you that are watching live today. Music by women and BIPOC composers. And this is their whole series here that they've been putting on over the last few weeks, starting last year, in fact. And they're going to continue this on into the new year, which is really great to look at. Mostly music by women composers that was forgotten or suppressed over time. They've been busy. They're on the front lines, as there are several researchers around the world looking for this music. And Eleanor is doing a great job trying to get it published through her publishing company, One Eye Publications. Video tutorials is neat. This is dedicated to new teachers. And this one just looks at the contemporary idioms piano syllabus, specifically the improv etudes. And so let me just fast forward this particular one. It's not going to let me because there's an ad in the way. Okay, so I go through here in quite a bit of detail, looking at the APP etude series with demonstrations on the right side there and telling you how to break this down for students in terms of the etudes and how to work on improv. It's a really informative way that's geared not only to our CI piano syllabus, but also to being able to get this out and just teach it to students if you want to learn improv. It's a great way, APP, American Popular Piano Etudes, I find a great way for students to learn by ear. And it's something I've been working on, about 12 years now in my studio, trying to get students to play more by ear, less off the page. And what I'm realizing is students that don't have the music in front of them, they can express so much more. The eyes really slow down the whole musical process. And when they're forced to close the book, now they have to play out of their ears, which is a more efficient musical pathway. And I'm just constantly surprised at what kind of music they create from scratch when they're given a little bit of skeleton to work with. And so that's a really great rote playing section there that you can view on the YouTube channel. I'm going to go back here a little bit. YouTube, it's always leaving things open. The new teacher webinars have covered that. So that's a little bit about what you can find on the YouTube channel. I think the playlists is the place to go. If you're looking for a specific live stream, you can go to the live section. All of the videos that have been uploaded, just in chronological as how I've uploaded them, not necessarily on how they've appeared. And on the homepage, you can find a lot of that too, including, you can see here, the live stream that was to take place that I'm giving now. You could actually click on here anytime at noon Eastern, and you'd be able to see myself presenting. So I'll do that now just so you can see how that works. Just in chronological without me creating a vicious loop. But you can see me presenting. There's about, excuse me, a 20-second lag time if you're watching the YouTube stream live. But it's a great way to check in if you don't want to register on Zoom necessarily, let's say. So that's a little bit about the YouTube channel and what we're doing lately. On the website, some more updates to come. The news section here in the middle is really good because you can see kind of the latest things. Those are some older things here. The new digital badge assessments. This is a great place to start if you want information on the badge assessments and what we've been doing. And we hope to have another webinar on that soon. Also, a menu item here under the Learning tab. You can look for all the classical syllabi, the contemporary syllabi. Digital badges here gives you information with a news article, and then also the syllabus for the piano repertoire digital badges and how it works. There is a webinar there that we did back at the beginning of the year that you can have a look at that talks about the digital badges and how they work. But it's something you're going to hear a little bit more about in the new year and through some of our emails and other marketing campaigns. If anyone has any questions as I'm going along here, feel free to throw them in the chat box. I'll watch that today here. And for those of you who joined late and don't realize, Cecile and Eleanor were supposed to present to us today, but an unfortunate incident has caused them to have to reschedule. And so that's why I'm just filling time here today, trying to get out some information I thought would be helpful to teachers, maybe that are wondering about how certain things are working on some of our newer projects here. On the homepage of the website, I'm going to add a little bit of here. Conservatory Canada Radio was a 4-podcast series that I've got here that you can listen to with any podcasting app. Dr. Scott McBride-Smith was a really great interview there for an hour where he talked about some research that he's come across. Deborah Wanless talking about some of her newer her newer books and publications that came out about 2 years ago now, really. A great interview with Christopher Norton, a great biographical piece and some insight into his compositional techniques. And then Dr. Donald Cook, the founding director of Conservatory Canada, he came in when he retired from Memorial University as a full professor there for many years. He built the program at Memorial. He came to Conservatory Canada, took what was there with Western Ontario Conservatory of Music, merged it with the Western Board and created what we now have. I actually met with him 2 weeks ago. He's still alive and well in London, Ontario, and driving around and doing all sorts of cool things. He's now 87 years old, I believe, or 86. And doing really well. Is still very much in touch with us. And so there's a really great interview there, a great biographical piece about his life growing up. I would encourage you to check out over the holidays if you have time just to listen to things. But I'm going to add some other things here about digital badges right on the homepage, as well as links to the YouTube channel so you can access it a little more easily. The top right corner, something we've all been dealing with lately, those of you who are trying to get students registered for exams, that is how to link your teacher portal from our old database to our new database. We needed to create a new database because the old one it had come time. It was very costly to update, had become quite cumbersome. It was 12 years old. And so it was time to make it more secure and give us something a little more modern that we could deal with. And so it's been more than a 2-year process, really, but we launched this in September. And so when it comes time to register a student for an exam or open the portal yourself, I know a number of you have probably done that already. There's a lot of tricks. It's a very difficult thing to do because our database is quite complex compared to most companies, let's say. Because we have academic records and your teacher portal, your teacher ID is linked to other student IDs, maybe many, hundreds in some cases, those of you that have been submitting students for many years. And so we had to find a way to link the old academic records into the new database. And to do that, it caused a lot of problems just to simply log in and create your account for the first time here. And so we appreciate your patience as you've worked through that. And so a lot of you probably didn't receive an activation link so far because maybe your old email address is defunct or there's spam blockers, junk mail blockers that are blocking those type of emails. And so when it comes time that you need to get into your teacher portal to see what your students are up to register students, that kind of thing, you would probably go to number 3 here. If you're an existing teacher or an examiner, please obtain your activation link here. Fill in your first name and last name as it would have appeared in the old database, and give us 2 email addresses to send the new activation link to. The email addresses don't have to be the same as the old one. That was causing a lot of problem for some people. So all it is 2 email addresses, but you have to get your first and last name right. And some of you may have changed your name in some way. Maybe in some cases there were spelling mistakes in people's names, and so they can't link it. As soon as you have trouble with this process, reach out to us by email. We'll hook you up with our tech support team at Invorg in London, and they can very easily give you a set of instructions that reactivates your account. It's a little bit time consuming, especially when you run into that little glitch. But if you do, half of our users are getting in no problem, but half are having trouble at this step. And again, the reason is we want to make sure we don't lose any of the old data, and we get all of your old data and student links to their academic records into your new portal so that everything is intact without having to create a new account. And so you send that in, you get an activation link to both of these emails. Hopefully one of them actually makes it to your inbox. Check your spam folders, and from there you should be able to get a link to break into your new portal. If you're brand new, you've never created a portal with us before or had any students, you can use step 1 and create a new account, create a teacher account next, and it guides you through the prompts. You fill in all this information. If you're a teacher that already has an account and you finally get in, you're going to see this page populated with some of your information. Feel free to go in and edit it. In the profile page, you can upload a biography if you want, and upload a photo file of yourself in case people want to come across your profile through the teacher locator feature on the website, and they'll be able to know who you are. You set a password for yourself and also security questions. So if you lose your password, you have to fill out at least 2 security questions and answers, and that we can help you recover your password for you securely. We don't want anybody else breaking into your teacher account, stealing academic data, that kind of thing. And that's partly why we have a few more steps here that are a little bit more modern. Your organization affiliations. This is just if you're affiliated or working or teaching for a music school, you can feel free to put that in here. Your experience, any additional information. If you want to subscribe to our newsletters or subscribe to all updates, if you aren't already, you can click these links. There's a registration policy to agree to. Click submit, and then off you go, and that should create your teacher account. From there, you can have students link to you. They can add you as their teacher in their student account using the same process. And then you can actually register teacher, or you can register students for their exams now if you want. You couldn't really do that in the old portal without some mental and technological gymnastics, which some teachers would do. But in the new portal, you can actually go in through your teacher portal, select which student you want to register. You can register them for the exam. All the details, you don't even have to pay. You can just save the registration. You can either pay for it yourself if you're invoicing your students' families, or you can then tell the student's family to go in and make the payment. But you've entered all the information, so you know it's going to be accurate for exactly the exam situation and comments that you want for the student. So that's a new feature. And then once that comes, you get email notifications. We've streamlined the scheduling process. When students register for a flex exam, they have to give us 3 choices for their date and time for practical exams right up front as part of the registration before we can book it. And that cuts down on some of the back and forth emails. And the process before was a little looser, where students would register and then they'd have to come back to us with an email to request the times. You don't have to do that anymore. We're going to see that right up front in the new database. So that's sort of a feature of that I think will work very well. The eSharp Club, for those of you that belong to the teacher resources, you'll find that in the teacher portal under the resources tab on the left side menu. And if you pay for the $20 fee for the yearly membership, you can access those resources there. So that's a little bit about the new portals. And again, one thing we realize is that a lot of people have bookmarked the teacher portal in a bookmark in their bookmark section on their browser. That won't work because that's going to point you to the old database, and that's going to take you to a different place. So if any of you are ending up here, it'll say, this is what the old portal looked like. Welcome to the student portal. If you're a teacher, log in here. proceed to login. And then you get this maintenance page, and people are getting stuck here, not realizing how to get to the new portal. You're going to have to erase those bookmarks or overwrite them with something else. And the way to get to the new portal is through the handy links here on our homepage. Their students or teachers can click these handy links at the top right, and this is the page you should see to log in for the next many years. So hopefully that clears that up. There's also a handy link right here, teacher portal. It says it'll take you to the same place. So that's a little bit there to help with some of the things that teachers have been experiencing in terms of the new portals. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about was actually digital badges. It's something I'm trying to promote here. We think it's a great idea. And in informal polls through these webinars and other surveys that we've put out over the last couple of years, we're realizing that, somewhere between 1% and 5% of your students are doing exams. And that's pretty low. And that's what I'm seeing too. I still have a small teaching studio here. And that's what I'm going through. Is very few students doing exams. They're not able to commit to doing all of the skills, 4 or 5 pieces, depending on the grade, getting it all ready at the same time to perform all at once for that examiner, whether it's online or in person. And it's just becoming very difficult. And so what do we do with that other 95% of students? And this has been going on for quite a while, right? And I'm sure you can all relate, those of you that are watching and listening here. What do we do with those other students? We've had to become more recreational with our teaching. We've had to allow for all sorts of maybe rescheduling things in some places where students can't attend lessons regularly. You all have studio policies around that. But when it comes to those, driving home an exam used to be a way to really guarantee a student was learning, give them a goal to work towards, give them a practice goal to work toward. The families would help and see, ensure that this would happen. And then a number of years ago, this just stopped. It was almost, I sort of see a real turning point in our data around 2008. All of a sudden, it was fashionable for high school students to have these smartphones. As soon as those came on board, exam numbers really dropped. They had already been dropping, but then it really took a sharp drop. And every year we notice this small decline every year, and it adds up and adds up. And so what do we do for those students to engage them in a way that can take on these assessments or give them some kind of performance goal that's beyond my teaching studio? It doesn't have to be accredited or anything. It's just something simple, maybe even somewhat frivolous. But the more I got into it, we started testing this out with our committee. We realized it was anything but frivolous. All the students have to do to get a digital badge is register through the portal. It's levels 1 to 10. Those levels are the same as our classical syllabus levels, our contemporary idioms, our other levels for piano. And they have to submit and work on 3 repertoire pieces, which they pre-record video and audio. They can record it on the smartphone. They can use fancier equipment. I have my laptop here set with the webcam right next to the piano and a good mic on the side to capture the audio for them. And in the lesson, when they're ready to record a piece of music, we put it down. And they're thinking, oh, great, I'll just play this piece and off we go. I'll have one of the 3 done and I can submit for this digital badge. But then you play it back for them and there are issues, of course, with it. And they think, oh, well, I want to do that again. I can do it better this time. And they play it again and it actually doesn't go much better. It's at a certain level. They're playing it for you in the studio. Maybe it gets a little bit, but they're the same mistakes. And now they've got this archive. It's not just us as teachers telling them, well, we have to fix this. We have to fix this. We have to fix that. Maybe we put it in order for them so we don't overwhelm them. But now they're seeing it all. They're actually seeing and hearing themselves, and they get incredibly critical. Even, I dare say the laziest students, but they get incredibly critical right on the spot. It just blew my mind last year when I started testing this out. They're now totally focused on bettering themselves in a different way. And so they come back the next week, they're going to record it again. And they think they've got it. We lay down the recording, we watch it back. I don't have to say anything. I just hold the space for them. And they start looking and hearing and seeing what needs to change. And they play it a few more times in the lesson and they get frustrated and they go back again. They come back the next week. And I've had a couple of students, they go on like this for 6 weeks. And then they get to a point where I think, okay, this is a gold level performance. Students will get either a gold, silver, or bronze standing for the digital badge. And I hear them, okay, we've got enough for a gold standard. You'll see in the syllabus, it's 86% or higher on a traditional marking scale like we have for our exams. That's a gold standard. Anything from 75 to 84 is silver. Anything below 75 is bronze. Pretty hard to get bronze. Your rhythm has to be pretty bad for that. But most students are getting silver. I've even had students still playing at the gold level, and I'll tell them, no, that's a gold level performance now. You've got your rhythm in check. You've got some dynamic shape. You got some phrase. You've got a couple slips, but you've got a lot of expression there. they're still not happy with it and they still want to continue on. And it's just far more valuable than me just talking and trying to correct these things with them in whatever lovingly way I can. And then we move on to the second piece. We move on to the third piece. I archive them on my computer. I submit the URLs for them into the student portal so that we can have it assessed by someone. And we look at the three pieces and decide, is this overall for a package of three, is it worth a gold standard, silver, or bronze? We give them really detailed feedback on what they need to do to improve, a lot more than we have time to do in an exam. Because when we're examining these things, I can look at it 2 or 3 times to really get it right. I listen the first time, get some general ideas, jot them down for the student. I listen again. How is this? How is this? And I go through the critical listening protocol like we've done sometimes in the mock exams. You'll see me talk about that critical listening protocol there, where I show you the layered listening steps that examiners go through to assess. And I can give them really detailed feedback on what to work on next. We try to focus it only on what to work on next. We may make reference to, once you're done that, there's this, this, and this. And then we're also, of course, rewarding them and talking about how wonderful they are in terms of what they've done well so far. This is where you're at. This is what you could do to improve. And if it's not at the gold standard, they can actually resubmit for half the fee, and we'll evaluate it again and see if they can up their standing from a silver to a gold. Haven't seen anyone do that yet, but everyone's going to use this slightly differently. It's really great for those students, I find, that they're just never going to sit a full exam. They don't have time. They're busy doing soccer and judo and wrestling, and they're playing the flute as well. And, there's just no time to practice. I can capture their interest enough, hopefully after a few months, to record 3 pieces really well. But it gives us a little bit of focus and helps us move the piano lessons up the priority list at home a little bit so that they've got a really concrete goal to work for. And it's not just me talking to them, it's them seeing the video recording. Right. And so that's what I think is really valuable about this. There may be students that, do an exam every year, but right now it's just not lining up for them. They're tired of the repertoire. They're ready to move on. Maybe they don't quite have the energy, or it's not worth putting 3 months into refining all of their pieces at this point and technique, even though they've kind of got it ready. They don't want to put that 3 months in because something's on the horizon, or we're better off going on to the next grade. Let's do a quick digital badge. May only take a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, to get 3 pieces that are almost ready, refined. It gives them a little goal, and it gives them a little bit of satisfaction and recognition. Digital badges, what do they look like? I saw it on the screen here. Let me go back to the digital badge page. We give them the comments right in the examiner portal, and there's a link to download the badge. And this is what the badge looks like for level 1 gold piano repertoire. Right now, students can only do digital badge for piano repertoire. I'd like to roll out voice repertoire by the end of the year. And then eventually we've got ideas for other badges, whether it's a composition badge or ensembles badges. There's all sorts of neat things that we could do. And I'm open to your thoughts anytime about this, where you'd like to see this program go. The fees are much cheaper. For example, a level 1 badge for piano repertoire is only $49, so a student can access it a lot more cheaply. Families might find that a little bit more valuable than paying $124 for a grade 1 piano exam. Somewhat softer commitment, also good, I think, as well for students that maybe have learning disabilities of some sort. This is becoming more common. We're seeing our fair share of students in one-on-one settings. Parents intuitively know that their child could really benefit from the one-on-one that we can offer as studio teachers. And it's hard for them sometimes to sit in an exam room with an examiner, put all of that together. We're nervous for them. This is a much more doable commitment, I think, for a lot of those students that may be experiencing difficulty in other ways at this point in their lives, and it may be a stepping stone to helping them overcome some obstacles in a much more non-threatening way. It lets them can take control over their learning more. It's not so much us having to preach to them, but encouraging. It's kind of, I find myself more of the grandmother approach, just standing over the shoulder and saying, hey, that was great. Nice. Very nice. Let's try that again. Oh, I'd love to hear that again. Those kind of things, more coaching rather than teaching. Of course, there are teaching moments too. We do that teaching before the video camera goes on, hopefully. And then we get to a point where they might get stuck. Now I turn the camera on so that they can see and get that feedback more immediately. That's in a nutshell, not so much a nutshell. That's a lot of words about what digital badges are about. And I think over time, you'll hear us talk about it more. We're going to do more webinars about this and figure out how we can motivate students within our studio with these softer commitments that are more meaningful to them. It's engaging with the technology a little bit because we have to record it. They seem to like that kind of thing. The repertoire is wide open. You don't even have to get approval for the pieces. As long as you think they're at level 1 or level 5, whatever the student's trying, you can use our syllabus for the classical or CI piano syllabus as a guide for those levels and pieces. But we're pretty lenient on these things. We just want to see the student playing. If you think it's at that level for them, by all means, use those pieces. You don't need approval from us for any of it. We want this to be accessible. And that's one thing that can make it more accessible. So if there are any questions about digital badges or anything else I've talked about, feel free to throw them in the chat box or the Q&A anytime here. I'm going to stop sharing now. I'll just talk a little bit about what I want to do in the new year with the webinars. Right now, we have a contemporary idioms piano teachers group that meets once every 3 to 4 weeks on Thursdays. The next meeting is going to be Thursday, December 22nd. It's always at 12 noon Eastern. There's a dedicated meeting link for the year for that group of interested teachers that wants to talk about, share, and learn more about the contemporary idioms piano syllabus. Our director of teacher outreach, Dawn Keim, who lives in Kelowna, she runs that group. And in the newsletters from time to time, you'll see me provide that link and a description of what their next meeting is going to entail. And we had a pretty good group going back in the spring with that, about a dozen teachers. Now we're down to only 3 or 4 teachers joining that one. And we'd like to build that back up again. So we hope you can join us for that. And in the new year, I want to focus a little bit more on research, like when we had Dr. Gilcomo or Dr. Elaine Keeler in the last month talk to us through the Friday webinar. I'd like to do more of those sessions with different researchers from across Canada and the United States. And so hopefully you're going to see a little bit more about that. I'm also going to throw in other topics through the Friday webinar to see what we're interested, to see if we can create another teacher group, a focus group that's interested in meeting regularly to talk about a particular topic, such as teaching beginners, using beginner methods, overcoming obstacles with teaching beginners, maybe teaching students with learning disabilities. Again, the statistics that I come across, because I do a little bit of health coaching as well, in another part of my life, I realized that autism spectrum disorder has been increasing dramatically over the last 30 years. But in the last few years, especially, some of the numbers are not very good in terms of, it looks like as of 2016 in the US, 1 in 33 children diagnosed with ASD on the spectrum. In places like Ireland, 2018 stats in Ireland, 1 in 15 boys diagnosed on the spectrum. These are kind of alarming stats. And again, I realized that in our studios, we see our fair share of these kids. There are obstacles. There are things we have to overcome. Parents see us as incredibly patient. I mean, I just sit back now. It's really starting to hit me over the past few months. The work that we do as studio teachers with these kids, sometimes adults too, but just focusing on kids for now, let's say, it really is quite profound. And often the parents don't share with us just how profound it is. But I'm seeing more evidence from time to time now, and I think back over the last 35 years I've been teaching, there's a lot of really good work that we do that we may intrinsically understand or know, but we don't necessarily get a pat on the back for. And I hope we all realize that. We realize the strength, the power that we have, the light that we shine on these families' lives. Just realize and think about that over the holidays. That's what I'm planning to do, and think about how we can bring that into the Friday webinar in the new year in some way. Maybe there's a group that wants to meet to talk about this type of thing. So see, these are some of the topics I'm throwing out there today. Feel free to give me your feedback on what you'd like to see us cover. If you want to see more advanced repertoire, if you want to see us work with some of these topics I've mentioned today, if you want to know more about digital badges, whatever it is, I'm open to thinking about it and finding a way that we can discuss it, bringing in people that may know more than we do about it, and we can all learn from it together in community together. So that's a little bit about what I wanted to talk about today in terms of just filling the time here while Cecile and Eleanor, we're going to reschedule that session that was to be held today. Those of you that are registered for that webinar, there will be a new link, but don't worry, I'll hit you back with that by email in the next week or two when it's going to happen. And I'll give you the registration link personally to your inbox. So you don't have to register for that again. Just know that you'll get the link to that so that you can enjoy their presentation live when it comes out. Especially those of you that have come in today. I know I'm looking down the list and realizing most of you are here every Friday, and I appreciate that. It's nice to have an audience and to know that this is a valued service. We hope to grow it. There are times when there are well over 100 of you joining live, and that's really gratifying knowing that we're on the right track. But feel free to send me your feedback if you want to get into dialogue on email. I do have Zoom meetings with teachers from time to time to talk about some of the programs and some of the things, or even just to talk about pedagogy. You may be wondering, who can I talk to that will help me understand this better, or I'm experiencing this in my studio, who can I talk to? And I can give you some ideas about who you can talk to, or maybe we just need to form a larger group around it. And that's what we're trying to do here at Conservatory Canada. So I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you can join us next Friday with Deborah Wanless, who's going to talk about one-handed repertoire. I think that's going to be really fun. That was going to close out our series for the year before the holidays, but we may in fact add Cecile and Eleanor on the 16th. I'll let you know by email next week. And hope you all have a great week in the meantime. Great weekend here. Hope it's relaxing for you. I see, okay, no questions today, so that's fine. Thanks for the feedback in the chat box there, everybody. And we'll chat.